wiped away the beads of sweat that glittered on his brow. His tired feet were buried in the quagmire, and his bloodshot eyes saw all that lay between him and fulfillment of his vow. And he felt his fingers wrap around a knotted root and pull his body upwards to a sea green mossy boulder, and he dragged his weary shit ass up the mountain, and he climbed so slowly, he climbed so slowly, the crack of thunder, and the rocks began to crumble overhead and tumble down the mountain to the dismal swamp that lay beneath the jagged cliffs through which his path had led. And the earth began to quake beneath his feet, and the mighty mountain changed before his eyes, and he stood amidst the sea of dust and rocks and stones cascading down the mountain, and 1,000 birds were heading for the sky. The sacred creed will be yours. Till tomorrow, the sacred creed will be yours to devour, yours to seize and to obey. When the dust had cleared, the colonel lifted up his head and was driven to his knees by a blazing beam of light. And he saw the silhouette that stood before him, and he bowed in reverence, trembling in the shadow of the mighty legend's form. Iculus, the prophet, stood before his eyes, looking down on Colonel Forbin, where he shuddered in the puddles and the muck. And he quietly addressed him, and he spoke so slowly, he spoke so slowly, he said, I know why you've come here, and I'll help you with your quest to gain the knowledge that you lack. I call upon my faithful friend, the mockingbird, to fly and seize the helping book and bring it to your shack. And the tree of knowledge in your soul will grow, and the helping friendly book will plant the seed. That I warn you that all knowledge, seeming innocent and pure, becomes a deadly weapon in the hands of avarice and greed. Whoa. The sacred greed will be yours. Till tomorrow, the sacred greed will be yours to devour, yours to seize and to obey. it's true what you hear and it's true what you read tonight, people, because just like the sign says up there, Forbin does indeed live. And I want to tell you what's going on right now here, but I don't think all of you know. But we've been kind of working with this experimental gas and some experimental stuff here that Paul back there at the soundboard on his free time, you know, he's an intuitive and quirky little guy, and so he's been working on this gas, and I don't know if you've noticed, but those little holes along the side there, and then these little jugs over here, and I might as well explain that the gas that's been coming out here has probably taken, we've done about 3 or 4 songs, so it's probably starting to take effect right now in your brains, and it's what this gas is going to do is that right about now we've kind of planned it out so that just as the gas is starting to take effect, there's one more little thing here we'll do to click it in, but I'll explain to you what's going to happen is you're going to kind of go into this little space for a while where we're going to be able to control things with you, but when you leave the concert tonight, you're not going to remember any of it, or you'll kind of vaguely remember it, but you won't remember if it really happened or not. It's going to basically put you in a trance. It's really a subtle thing, the way this stuff works, but when Mike and I do the vibration of life right now here, we're going to do the quick vibration of life, at which point you're going to start to feel the gas starting to take effect in your head. So Fish, you can just bring it down there on the drums there. Let me see if I can... Just let me explain to you here that the way that the people philosophize about the vibration of life is that there's basically a universal wavelength. Everything is moving, you know, particles and everything is moving, and there's a wavelength that's supposed to be somewhere around 7 beats per second, which is basically supposed to be the wavelength that holds the universe together. And there's lots of different sciences, and there are people. Think about this. So what we're going to try to do here is get the wavelength, the vibration of life happening here, and this is going to vibrate through your body. You'll hear it coming from the bass, and this is going to start the effect of the gas working in your head. So let's see if we can. Should be triggering it right now. So everything that's happening from this moment on for the next 15 minutes, you're not going to remember anything. And actually what's going to happen is we're going into sort of a time continuum now. This is going to last for hours and hours, but when you go home tonight, it's going to feel like it only lasted for about 10 seconds. And Paul, you ready? Okay, click it in, Paul. He's pushing in this thing here right now, and what we're going to do is we need actually to get some sound effects here, so we're taking the building, and Paul's rigged the building on a huge pole on the outside. And so what's happening right now is you're feeling your feet, and your feet are basically pressed against the floor, and if you can just feel your feet press against the floor, your feet are now, because if you can just hold on with the weight of your feet, just feel your weight going through your feet into the floor, and your hands are hanging, all your weight is going down, because right now Paul is starting I can feel it, he's tilting the building upside down, and just make sure you keep you feeling that the weight of the weight of your body going through your feet into the floor, because he's tilting it right now, and we're almost upside down. And, okay, now we're there. We're hanging upside down. We're hanging by our feet. So make sure that you keep your feet, because we wouldn't want anybody falling down to the what used to be the ceiling, but what's now the floor. Now that we're hanging by our feet, Paul's going to start the wobbling back and forth button, shaking the building back and forth, and it's just kind of letting everything fall out of your head, and you're hanging by your feet here now. We're all just jiggling from the bottom here, jiggling from our feet as we're standing here. There's sort of some force outside the building now. You're hanging by your feet from the top of the thing. We're wiggling, we're hanging. We're hanging by our feet, we're wiggling. And the bottom of your feet now, where the floor is starting to sort of become transparent. And all around you, you can see New Brunswick, and you can see up in the sky there, New York over here, Philadelphia and Trenton. And what's happening is your bodies are starting to stretch out through your feet. So your feet are pulling and stretching out. And Paul is jiggling the building for us to help us stretch out. We're stretching out more and more and more. And slowly our heads start to leave, and we're kind of going up into space, hanging by our feet. And as we hang, we're getting long and thin, and stretching more and more. And you can look down. If you look down, you'll see New York kind of spreading out over there in that direction, and Philadelphia and Trenton and the whole thing, and getting a little higher, and you see the ocean. And now Paul's taking us out over the ocean, and we're hanging upside down by this thing out over the ocean, jiggling around, and he kind of starts to swoop down by the ocean and swoop a little lower, and then he starts pulling up even higher now. We're lifting up higher and lifting up higher from our feet. And as we lift up higher, he starts to tilt it back over again. So you guys can relax your feet now, because we're going to be standing up on the thing again. And now we're basically on this sheet of glass, and we're going out over the ocean. And we're lifting up so that the whole earth starts to get smaller and smaller as we go away. And we're basically kind of surfing through space on this sheet of glass, and you can see out going higher and higher. And slowly the earth kind of starts to disappear, and the moon, and you can see the whole solar system. We're getting farther away in the galaxy, and we start going so deep into space that there's no planets, there's no more stars are drifting off, until it's just sheer blackness. And we're just floating in blackness now on this sheet of metal. And since we're floating in space, we can now disconnect our feet from the thing, and the sheet of glass just starts to drift away. It just sets us free now, floating in space. We're floating in space free, but we're kind of, any gravitational pull from our bodies is holding us together. We slowly start to drift, and we're drifting through space, and then off in the distance we see the tiniest little speck. And this is kind of like, if you think about Horton Hears a Who, you know, the Dr. Seuss thing, it's just a little speck, it's insignificant, right? But when we start to get closer to it, we're drifting towards it, it starts to look like a little ball now. And then as we get closer, it looks like sort of an amorphous blob of something going out. It's kind of greenish haze around it. We keep getting closer and closer, and as we get closer, we see that it's huge. It's a huge, massive thing floating in space, and closer. It's filling up our whole field of vision now, but we still aren't up to it. We're getting closer and closer, and now it just becomes green and like an atmosphere, and we're going into this green atmosphere. And we look down, and we're floating in, and we're coming down closer. We start to see some sort of land down underneath us, and we look down at it, and we see a green field drifting off into the distance as far as we can see on one side. We see a huge forest going off in the other direction as far as we can see it. A jagged, enormous, jagged mountain coming up out of the thing. A mountain with clouds all above the top of it. It's so high, it's up in the clouds, and we're floating down, and we realize that we've come to Gamehenge. Over at the mountain, and we see this little guy climbing up the mountain, and we know that it's Colonel Forbin. Colonel Forbin is climbing up the mountain, and we know that Gamehenge, we start to kind of know in our mind that Gamehenge is, used to be inhabited by these peaceful people. They were taken over by the evil King Wilson, and Colonel Forbin is climbing up the mountain right now to try to find the great and knowledgeable Iculus, the god who lives on top of the mountain, and he's going to get the Helping Friendly Book. And the Helping Friendly Book is in the castle. So in order to get the Helping Friendly Book right now, he needs to call on the famous mockingbird. So we start to see the famous mockingbird flying out of the sky, and he's coming down, flying down, and you hear him, and he lands on Iculus' shoulder, and Iculus sends him off to get the Helping Friendly Book and bring it back to the people of Gamehenge. So thank you for coming with us. We're still in Gamehenge now, but when you go home, you're going to think this was all just some story I told because of what the gas did to your head, but really it actually happened. Here comes the famous mockingbird now. mockingbird. Mockingbird.